Hi guys, this is Mr. Tan, and today we're looking at e-business and e-marketing, or digital marketing. And today we're going to look at the analysis of the digital business, and here we're looking at the processes and practices, customer scenarios, and service quality and site design issues. Again, the site design in terms of what the customer is expecting, and the flow in terms of where the customer goes to get to the end checkout and put his credit card details in. So we're going to be looking at these processes and practices and the site design. And the completion of this session, students, you should be able to summarize approaches for analyzing requirements for the digital business systems, and you should be able to identify key elements of approaches to improve the interface design and security design of e-commerce systems. So let's have a look at some of these areas. So opening discussion questions, something to think about. What are the critical success factors for analysis and design of digital business systems? So what are the critical success factors for analysis and design of digital business systems? And then, what is the balance between the requirements of usable and secure systems and the cost of designing them in this manner? So analysis of digital business, understanding processes and information flows to improve service and delivery. And we think about a definition, we can view this as information is an agent of coordination and control, and serves as a glue that holds together organizations, franchises, supply chains and distribution channels, along with material and other resource flows. Information flows must be handled effectively in any organization. So when we're talking about analysis for digital business, we're talking about managing the information flow. So if it's to deal with customer queries, if it's to do with customer support, if it's to deal with orders, in terms of the information flow coming from when a customer has actually purchased and made a buy. So again, this must be managed, because as we look further, we'll see how much information is needed to keep track of everything. So workflow management. So workflow management is the automation of a business process in whole or part, which documents, information or tasks are passed from one participant to another for action according to a set of procedural rules. So examples include, booking a holiday, how to handle a customer complaint, and how you receive a customer order. So the workflow management, what is the process? And you need to have these processes in place for different activities within your organization. If you've taken a customer's order, what is the process for that order, regardless of what the order is? If you're talking about a customer query, what is the process? The customer query comes in, and then it's allocated to whom, in what period of time is it dealt with, and then who is going to send out the information, and so on and so forth. Who is going to chase this up? So what is the process? Receiving a booking for a holiday, what is the process for undertaking this booking? So process modeling, often use a hierarchical method of establishing the process and other constituent parts, sub-processes, the dependencies between processes, and the inputs, the resources needed by the processes, and the outputs. So we're talking about a hierarchical method of establishing these processes. So step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, step 6, and then you may have sub-processes that need to be done and cross-checks within processes, and also what are the dependencies within certain stages of that process. Okay, so and what resources are actually needed to actually ensure that this process continues. So here we can see a process here, for instance, for inbound goods, and here we've got informational goods coming into a company. Then we've got the inspection, measurement. The goods or information have to be evaluated. For example, a quality check. Then we have to process it. Here's an activity or task such as entering data or emailing the customers. The decision, process flow can be split according to whether the choice is a yes or no. Transportation, movement of physical goods or information such as a memo transported by post. And then you have the delay, occurs when processing is delayed through a lack of resources. And understanding the processes for any given task is important, because then you standardize the process, you state what needs to happen, you have the appropriate documentation supporting those processes and the different subtasks that occur for that process to be achieved. And also you can later go back and check, and you can improve upon the process in terms of further checks or different ways of doing things to make it more efficient or more effective. So here we have another example here of a mail-in, and then the mail-in is waiting to be sorted, and then after it's been sorted it's going to be categorized, and then we have a new application, and then within that mail, so the new application, key in the application, so it's actually put into the database, and scan a document. So these two activities, has it been keyed in? Yes. Do you need a scan? No. To go to scan in document if it doesn't need to be keyed in. And then go to associate, to case, who's going to be doing this, assign priority to date, action priority task from queue, more information required, yes or no. If no, then you go on to mark item complete. If it's yes, phone to request more information. Is the information still available? If it's no, write to the request for additional information. If it's yes, then go to mark item as complete. So we can see the process of the tasks, and then subtasks that need to be done, and subchecks that need to be taken into consideration depending upon the type of activity that is taking place. So this is good, because if you can model and put all your processes in, then you can put in a workflow of what needs to be done, how it needs to be done, and what needs to be documented and what needs to be filed, so that you could always cross-reference and cross-check anything at any time to find out if you followed this process. Again, here we have a process where we've got the business events in green, and at the center we've got the business event, and then the process path leads into the business event, and the business event can lead into the function, and then further business events. Okay. Again, so everything's leading in to the business events, even the processing path. And here now we have, if we are thinking about, a customer placing an order on a website, then we would have different customers, and then we would need different information from those customers. So we might need, we might allocate a customer ID, and then the title of the customer, their first name, their last name, their first line of address, second line of address, their city, their postcode, county, their password, username, ID, email address, registration date. And again, these customer details would then be linked to their actual order. So then they have a specific order ID which will be unique to that customer. And then again, you would have additional information when the customer actually bought this and made this order, the order date, and was the order dispatched. If it was dispatched, what was the dispatch date? What was the total amount, the shipping cost, other credits, credit card number, customer ID. The customer ID links to the order handling in terms of the customer ID. So these two fields link these two separate databases together. So you've got the customer database and the order database. And what's linking these two databases together is the customer ID field. And then again, you've got further databases, sub-databases, like the order line. The order line in terms of what was ordered, what quantity was ordered, what was the price paid, what was the product ID. And again, what links the order handling to the order line, again, is the order ID. So you've got the order ID at the top, which links to the order line. So we can see that with any one customer, you could link to separate databases which are all linked together by a separate field. So when one field links to another database and all these databases are connected by one field, then you can actually pull up any information that you need on that one customer. Again, if you look at the product specification, product ID, short description, long description, the picture of the product, the size, the category, the manufacturer's ID, standard price, number in stock, again, what's linking the order line of the products is the product ID, and the product ID links to the product information. So again, all these separate databases need to be in place, because if you don't have these databases in place, how can you actually pull up one individual customer's name and find out what they ordered? What was the order line? What was the product? What was the specifications, and so on and so forth, and what's available? So these need to be in place within your databases, within your systems and processes and practices, in order to you to cross-check at any one given time. And additional information, you might have additional fields in here. Additional fields in terms of, you might want to build in segmentation categories. You might have another database of segmentation categories where you've got a behavioralistic segmentation, psychographic, demographic, and and geographic segmentation, and then this would link into the customer profile. This would then allow you to use social media, public relations, and two-way communication later to communicate with these customers in terms of your customer relationship management, your CMR. So again, linking this all together. So this is very, very important in terms of the process, in terms of the information, in terms of the logical layout and format. So let's look at data modeling stages. So with data modeling, uses well-established techniques used in relational database design. So different stages includes identifying the entries, identifying the attributes for entries, identifying the relationships between the different entries. So if we look at number one, identifying entries, here we're saying entries define the broad groupings of information, such as information about different people, transactions or products. Examples include customer, employee, sales orders, purchase orders. When the design is implemented, each design will form a database table. So as we saw before, in those tables, these were different database tables. But if we saw the links between these different database tables, the database tables had one link, so we could link the customer to different database tables. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to pull up additional information about that customer. Entity, a grouping of related data, such as customer, entity implemented as a table. And database table. Each database comprises of several different tables. 2. Identifying the attributes. Entries have different properties known as attributes that describe the characteristics of any single instance of an entry. For example, the customer entity has attributes such as the name, phone number, and email address. Whereas design is implemented, each attribute will form a field. So each of these attributes, the first name, surname, last name, first line of the address, postcode, zip code, each one of these lines are called fields. And a collection of these fields in one instance of the entry, such as a particular customer, will form a record. So all these different fields for one customer then form together a record. And then, again, continuing with identifiable attributes, a property or characteristic of an entry. Implementation as a field. So each data entry within each database table is a field. Field here, attribute of products, such as date of birth. A record, a collection of fields for one instance of an entry, such as a customer, Smith. That could be a database table. And then we have the identifiable kind of like relationships. Continued still. So The relationship describes how different tables are linked. We talked about different tables being linked by a separate field which is common in both database tables, allowing you to link those two tables together on any specific customer or product. So the primary key is the field that uniquely identifies each record in a table, and the secondary field is a field which is used to link tables by linking to a primary key in another table. So this is very important when you're thinking about your design and your database design, because if you have your customer and all the different fields in your customer for one database table, but you don't have an interlinking field between the customer ID, for example, and an appropriate customer ID in the product field, then you're not going to be able to link the two together. You're not going to be able to find out exactly what that customer ordered. And then that database table will then have an identifying unique field which will link into stock control, for example, and a stock control table will tell you what's available, how much is in stock, or if it's out of stock and when the stocks are due to come in, and so on and so forth. So again, this build up of these different database tables, and in each database table the different fields must have interlinking identifiable fields that link different tables together. So we have the user-centered design. Unless a website meets the needs of the intended users, it will not meet the needs of the organization providing the website. So the website design should be user-centered, evaluating the evolving design against the user requirements, according to Bevan, 1999. So we think about the customer experience management. We have various factors that it's going to be linking to, which includes mobile website, app design, app experience, social media, emails and mobile messaging, customer service interaction, in-store digital services and desktop website experience. So all these are going to be affected. So analysis considerations according to Bevan. Who are the important users? What is the purpose, in accessing the site? How frequently will they visit the site? What experience and expertise do they have? What nationality are they? Can they read English? What type of information are they looking for? How will they want to use the information? Read it on the screen, print it or download it? What type of browsers will they use? How fast will the communication links be? And how large a screen window will they use? And how? So here now we're going to look at the 4 stages of Rosenfeld and Morvilli 2002. And these 4 stages kind of like identify different audiences, kind of rank the importance of each to business, list the 3 most important information needs of all the audience, and ask the representative of each audience to develop audience type to develop their own wish lists. Evaluating designs. Smart Insights 2010 lists 5 types of tools used to continuously gain feedback. Evaluating tools. Website feedback tools, which again are not too difficult because there are so many software companies out there now allowing you to add in plugins to your website. Crowdsourcing, product opinion software, simple page or concept feedback tools, site exit survey tools, general online survey tools, and these are not difficult if you want to implement within your site. So these softwares are available at additional cost, and they can be plugged in readily, easily to provide you with the stats and feedback and information that you require. So use case analysis. So the use case, method of process analysis and modeling was developed in the early 1990s as part of the development of object-oriented techniques. It is part of a methodology known as Unified Modeling Language, UML, that attempts to unify the approaches that are preceded, and such as the Booth, OMT, and objectory and notations. Use case modeling, a user-centered approach to modeling system requirements, and the UML, Unified Modeling Language, a language used to specify, visualize, and document the artifacts of an object-oriented system. So, if we look at various stages in the use case, these can include to identify the actors. Actors are typically, application users such as customers and employers. Identify the use cases, the sequence of transactions between an actor and a system that supports the activities of the actor. Relate the actors to use cases, and develop use case scenarios. So it's important to understand the process that a customer would go through when coming onto your website for different activities, and their expectations, so you can actually meet those expectations, and so you can actually carry out a process which is meeting the expectations of your target customer. So let's look at customer orientation. Web users are notoriously fickle. They take one look at your home page and leave after a few seconds if they can't figure it out. And I agree with this as well. If something is too complicated or it looks too hard to work out what's happening, you just leave and go to another site. The abundance of choice and ease of going elsewhere puts a huge premium on making it extremely easy to enter a site. Is it easy to enter a site? Is it easy to get to where you want to get to? What is it that you actually want? Can you actually get there without feeling frustrated and it's taking too long to get to where you want to get to? So, customer scenarios and service quality. So, customer scenario is a set of tasks that a particular customer wants or needs to do in order to accomplish his or her desired outcome. So, I want to, and so on and so forth. And then at the end, you have the successful outcome. So again, what are the set of tasks that need to occur for this customer to get to their end goal? Site design issues. Again, the site design issues are so important. But it's important to understand your target customer and how they operate and what their needs are. And this will then affect your site design issues. Some of them can be, the style and personality and the design. Does it actually support the brand and your brand image and your positioning strategy? Site organization, fits audiences and, provides the information needs. Site navigation, is it clear and simple and consistent? I've been on various websites where it's not very easy to navigate and to go around, and you try to a certain degree and then you will just leave there and you may not never come back to that site again, and if you do see the site you will log off it straight away. Page design, again, the page design needs to be clear, simple and consistent. And content, it needs to be engaging and needs to be relevant to the target. So let's look at various principles. Standards. Users spend most of their time on other sites. This means that users prefer your site to work the same way as other sites work. They already know. Think about Yahoo and Amazon. Think shopping cart and the silly little icon. Think blue text links. 2. Support marketing objectives. Support customer life cycle, acquisition, retention, extension, acquisition of a new or existing customer, retention, gain, repeat visitors, extension, cross and upsell to your existing customers. Support your communication objectives. 3 key tactics include: communicate the online value proposition. establish your credibility. Convert customers to actually making a sale. Principle 4, customer orientation. So with your customer orientation, you need to think about your content and services support a range of audiences, and targeting different segments. Different segments in terms of behavioralistic, psychographic, demographic, and geographic types of customers. 4 familiarities include, with internet, with company, with products, with website. Principle 6, lowest common denominator. In terms of, what are the expectations of customers in terms of the access speed? If it's taking too long to load up your web page, customers will get frustrated. Screen resolution and color depth. How good is the screen resolution and your color depth? Is it at the right professional standards that is expected? Web browser type and browser configuration, text size, plugins, and is your site designed to take into consideration the majority of browsers that are being used by your target customer? And using those browsers, how does your website look within different browsers in terms of the sizes, the fonts? Is it 100% fit, and so on and so forth? Principle 7, aesthetics and the fit of the brand. Site personality. How would you describe the site if it were a person? For example, formal, fun, engaging, entertaining, professional. What about the site style? Information versus graphics intensive. Is it cluttered versus clean? And are personality and style consistent with the brand and customer orientation? And again, your STP strategy and your positioning strategy for your target customers. Principle 9, make navigation easy. You need to understand the customer and the flow and what they want to see, and is it easy in terms of customers to navigate through your site? According to Nielsen, we need to establish, where am I? Where have I been? Where do I want to go? And the context in terms of consistency and simplicity. So use accepted standards for navigation, which includes go with the flow, the visitor is in control, and trying to make it an enjoyable experience. So you really need to try and think like the client. Principle 10, support user psychology. Hofhaver's 5 stages of information processing. Exposure. So can it be seen? Attention. Does it actually grab your attention? Comprehension and perception. Do consumers actually understand what you're trying to say? Yielding and acceptance. Is it credible and believable? Because if it's not, then people discard it and they start looking again. If it is, then they will retain it in their memory. Retention. Is the message and experience remembered? So again, in terms of various models, we've got rational values, emotional values, and promised experience in terms of the customer. Okay, so and this is what it comes down to. It comes down to promised experience. What do the customers expect? Emotional values. What are they trying to get from the site? Are they getting everything that they need to meet their emotional needs? And the rational values. Does it look rational? Does it meet their rational needs? And again, all these areas must be taken into consideration in terms of, if we talk about your site, the performance and speed and availability. Relevance. Is the content and search relevant? Or does it need to be customized? Ease of use. How easy is it to use? Usability and accessibility and standards to different browsers. And then we need to take into consideration the design. How does it look visually? And the design style, the design tone. What about your reassurance in terms of trust, linking into the emotional values in terms of trust and credibility? Do people believe you? People putting their credit card details in. Do they trust and believe you? Because if people do not trust you, they're not going to give you the credit card details over this website. Okay, and again, service, interactivity, and product in terms of price and promotions, range. So all these areas in terms of the design information needs to be taken into consideration to really hit the 3 key areas in terms of a customer's rational values, emotional values, and promised experience. Again, we have the customer here. So the customer, will want different and have different functions. To browse the catalog, may want to search, the different products, request a catalog. They may want to register on site. They might want to purchase from the site. They might want to cancel an order, or they may have an email inquiry, a query. So again, these are all the possibilities for a customer coming onto your site, and you need to have the right information flow. You need to know what's happening. If an order is cancelled, what is the process? If you have an email inquiry, what is the process? Who is going to be doing it? And how can you monitor and check that it's been done, to monitor and maintain the standards, quality, and effectiveness. So here we have now again, press register, enter details, submit, information sent to CRM, and confirmation. So again, we have different stages and processes. Here we have another example of information that could come in. So, what do we cover today? So today we have covered the analysis of a digital business, customer scenarios, and service quality and website designs. And what we're talking about here is the processes and the practices. We're getting down to the details, but we're also getting down to the site design. We're talking about, all the different activities a customer might want to do. Do you have the processes in place within your organization, your business? Do you have the right setup in terms of the right databases and the database tables? And in each database tables, the right fields and the number of fields. And do you have interlinking fields between data tables or data sets to allow you to access information on any one particular customer at any one time for a range of different activities? So again, these things need to be thought about, because if you have stock control and you don't have any stock control linked to any product units and then product lines, and those product lines linked to customers' orders and customers' orders linked to the customer data set, then you're not going to be able to bring up all the information on the customer to find out if their goods are in stock or not, and if they're not in stock, when they're going to be available for dispatch, and so on and so forth. So the design, the processes, the analysis of the digital business is very, very important, and these areas need to be thought about before you just jump in and design your own website. So you need to be thinking about a holistic viewpoint and taking into consideration the whole 10 yards and not just what you see in front of you. So thank you today from Mr. 10.